Good evening, everyone. So, we'll be starting the session. I hope the others will be joining gradually. My name is Sudrita Roy Chaudhary. I'm one of the faculty of FSTN. So, today is the third day of the critical care workshop, and today our topic is in syndrome in the critical care setting and measurement, and as well as to look up into the clinical significance of the gastric residual volume. So, go step by step. First, we need to understand what is refeeding syndrome. Okay, so refeeding syndrome mainly we can see in case of critical care setting. What is the critical care setting? Mostly it will be ICU, intensive care unit. Mostly we are discussing about that. Okay, what is refeeding syndrome? So we understand whenever critical patient, okay, I'm not talking about a patient who will be having just a minor cuts and wounds and from the emergency they will be going home. No, I'm not talking about critical care patient who is very serious. And maybe after operation they went to ICU, maybe due to some other reason, maybe some like multi-organ failure, maybe some tumor, cancer, or any other disease. Okay, they went into the critical care. So, what is happening in the critical care? Their condition is serious. They are not able to take the normal food by mouth, okay, because they're into critical condition. So, they are not taking food for prolonged period of time. So, what is happening? The body is not taking the normal food. Our body is highly intelligent. They are understanding the patient is not able to take the normal food. So, as a result, body is accustomed with the low energy. Okay, anyway they are not moving anywhere. Okay, they are not doing any physical activity. They are into critical condition, and plus they are not able to take the food via mouth because of the any critical condition. So the body knows, just give me 1 second, someone wants to enter. Okay, so the body understand ki, okay, I need to sustain it, and they are sustaining into very low energy. Okay, now suppose the patient is under critical condition and we are providing food now. Okay, it can be enteral, it can be parenteral. Okay, enteral nutrition is what? Giving feed via tube which will be going to the GI tract. Okay, we are just avoiding the mouth in case of enteral feeding. What is parenteral feeding? We are giving food via vein. Okay, that means what is happening? We are avoiding the GI system. This type of feeding, of course, it depends on the condition of the patient. If the patient is not able to take food via mouth because of the many reason, ulcer, maybe some like throat issues, of course then we will be providing enteral nutrition. But enteral nutrition is still good than that of the parenteral nutrition. Why? Because still we are using the GI. Okay, we are still able to use our stomach, we are able to do that. But in case of parenteral nutrition, might be the condition is quite serious, the patient is not able to take via mouth, even we shouldn't be using the GI system also. Okay, then we are giving parenteral nutrition. So when we are starting with the enteral nutrition, mostly enteral nutrition, we are providing the food to them. Okay, when we are providing food to them suddenly, what is happening? The body is into survival condition where the food is less, glucose production is less, insulin production is less. Okay, now we are providing food suddenly, okay, by enteral nutrition. What is happening? Surge of food is coming, right? When surge of food is coming, what is happening? Insulin secretion is increasing in the body. Okay, insulin secretion is increasing in the body, and what is the function of insulin? It takes the glucose from the blood to the cells. Okay, but sudden surges of food on that point of time, as well as the insulin levels are increasing, it is taking the glucose, no doubt on that, but it is taking the electrolyte as well from the blood to the cells. So as the electrolyte suddenly going to the cell, so the concentration in the blood is getting empty. That condition is known as refeeding syndrome. Everyone understood? Ankita, Brishti, Chetna,
Yes, ma'am.
Debumina,
Yes, ma'am.
Madhurima, Shishir, Sriya. Just understand what is refeeding syndrome. Then the whole module will be becoming very easy for you all. Okay. So refeeding syndrome is basically starting of the feeding. Just go with the name, refeeding. Starting with the feeding again might be because of the many critical issues, the patient was not able to take the food, but now they're into better condition where we can start the enteral nutrition. So as we are starting the enteral nutrition, and sometimes we like in the hospital setting, the nutritionists or diet or the doctors, they're including suddenly a huge amount of food into their GI system. As a result, what is happening? Our body is highly intelligent. Before that, it was working on the survival mode. But sudden ingestion of the food, what is happening? Insulin levels are increasing. Okay, because they need to put the glucose into the cells from the blood. That is the function of the insulin. But when they are doing it, whatever electrolytes are present, okay, it's also going into the cells. Okay, as a result, what is happening? A hypo condition is taking place in the body because in the blood electrolyte concentrations are dropping down. Okay, so this condition is known as refeeding syndrome, which we'll be studying, as well as we'll be studying about the clinical significance of the gastric residual volume. Okay, suppose we have started the refeeding syndrome. The patient is not so much conscious and yet we have started, and with that we are also measuring how much contain, like after feeding, how much contain is still present in the stomach. Why we are doing that? To understand whether the whatever food we are giving the patient is able to digest or not. Okay, whether the gastric emptying is taking place or not. Understand that. If you're able to understand via measuring the gastric residual volume, okay, the gastric emptying is not taking place, the patient is not able to digest food, of course, then we need to check on the other measures like other enteral nutrition. It might be easily digestible. What if the condition is still critical? Then one can substitute to parenteral nutrition. So we'll be studying the both the thing, why these are important, especially in the critical care, why we need to understand the levels, and why we need to understand about the refeeding syndrome. Everyone got it? The both of the concept clear?
Yes, normal, ma'am. Hello,
Yes.
ম্যাম। নর্মালি কি তাহলে ইলেকট্রোলাইট গুলো সেলে সাধারণত যায় না? যখন আমরা ইনসুলিন বাড়ছে তখনই খাবারের সাথে কি তখনই একমাত্র সেলগুলোতে ঢোকে ইলেকট্রোলাইট গুলো, সোডিয়াম পটাশিয়াম পাম্প বা অন্য কোনো ওয়ে দিয়ে?
গুড কোয়েশ্চেন। ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে অফকোর্স ঢোকে, বাট এর আগে কন্ডিশনটা কি? আমরা সার্ভাইভাল মোডে আছি যেখানে ইনসুলিন সিক্রিশন খুব কম। ওকে, মুভমেন্ট অফ দ্য ইলেকট্রোলাইট ইজ অলসো ভেরি লেস অন দ্যাট পয়েন্ট অফ টাইম। ঠিক আছে, সব ওই টাইমে ব্লাডে থাকে, কেন কি ইনসুলিনের প্রোডাকশন ওই টাইমে কম। ইনসুলিন তো মেইন কাজ কি হয়? গ্লুকোজটা ট্রান্সফার করা, কিন্তু ওই টাইমে তো আমরা খাবারই ঠিকঠাক করে খাইনি, গ্লুকোজ তো এমনিতেই লো যাচ্ছে, তাই জন্য ইনসুলিনও লো এ থাকে। এবার জিনিসটা কি হয় সেটাই আজকে আমরা পড়বো। রিফিডিং সিনড্রোমটা গ্র্যাজুয়ালি স্টার্ট করতে হয়। এই রিফিডিং সিনড্রোমটা কি বলছি, যেখানে আমরা হুট করে স্টার্ট করে দিয়েছি, বডিকে সে মেকআপ দেওয়ার জন্য ইনসুলিন লেভেলস গেটস কোয়াইট হাই। ঠিক আছে, কোয়াইট হাই। অ্যাজ এ রেজাল্ট কোয়াইট হাই, হোয়াট ইজ হ্যাপেনিং, যে ব্লাডে যে কটা ইলেকট্রোলাইট ছিল দ্যাট ইজ অলসো গেটিং ট্রান্সফার্ড। ওকে, বেসিক্যালি স্টার্ট করতে হয় গ্র্যাজুয়ালি, তাকে আমরা বিল্ড আপ করি, স্লোলি স্লোলি থিংস উইল গেট ব্যালেন্স ইন দ্য
মানে
ব্লাড অ্যাজ ওয়েল অ্যাজ সেলস।
এই জন্য কি ম্যাম ওই সময় হাইপোফসফেটিমিয়া বা এই জাতীয় ডিসগুলো?
ওইগুলোই পড়বো আজকে আমরা। ঠিক আছে, হাইপোফসফেটেমিয়া, ম্যাগনেসিয়াম লো হয়ে যায়, সোডিয়াম লো হয়ে যায়, ওয়াই, এগুলোই পড়বো আজকে। গট ইট?
ওকে ম্যাম, ওকে।
And what about else? Everyone understood? Ankita, Brishti, Chetna, Debolina, Madhurima.
ম্যাম আর একটা প্রশ্ন যেটা, সেটা হলো যে নর্মালি কি এই রিপিটিং সিনড্রোমের জন্য কোনো টাইম ডিউরেশন থাকে, যে না 24 আওয়ার্স এর পরে যদি আমরা তাকে রিপিটিশন বলবো, অর্থাৎ 48 আওয়ার্সে এনপিএম ছিল, বা কতক্ষণ, এটা কি টাইম ডিউরেশন নাকি 6 ঘন্টা বাদে নাকি কতক্ষণ বাদে রিপিটিং সিনড্রোমটাকে আমরা বলবো?
Refitting syndrome টা basically হয় one, first of all, one need to understand the condition of the patient. Okay, what is the condition of the patient, and then the doctor will be giving you the green signal, and then one should be starting with the refeeding syndrome. Once we start with the refeeding symptom, we need to monitor the blood. Okay, and when we can see all the levels are going down, then we say the condition as a refeeding syndrome. Okay, so monitoring is important to understand whether the patient is undergoing refeeding syndrome or not.
সেই জন্য এভরিডে ইলেকট্রোলাইট ইজ এ ফ্যাক্টর
Absolutely.
ইন আইসিইউ পেশেন্ট।
In ICU patient. Okay. Okay. So let's start with that. So just check on the diagram, everyone. Okay. Person is undergoing starvation, malnutrition. So we understand, we have knowledge about the biology, we have knowledge about the metabolism. Just give me 1 second. Someone was trying to. Yeah. So starvation, malnutrition, what is happening? Glycogenolysis, that is the breakdown of the glycogen. Because we are in a survival mode, the patient might not be able to take the food. It can happen because of many reasons. As Shishir has mentioned, it can be of NPM. You can also understand maybe some other critical condition. Okay, because of that the person is not, maybe the person was unconscious as well. Okay, and for that reason they were into survival mode. Very low nutrition can be given in the parental nutrition, but they were into survival mode. So whenever they're into starvation and malnutrition, first of all, what happened? Glycogenolysis. What is that? Breakdown of the glycogen. Another thing happens, that is gluconeogenesis, that is formation of the glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. And with that also, we know what is the function. Whenever the carbohydrates are enough in the body, we spare the protein. Okay, but over here we can understand glucose levels are low. So what is happening? Protein also get metabolized here to produce energy. So that is happening in the starvation malnutrition. Okay, so what has happened? Depletion of the electrolyte, as insulin levels are so low, so it's not able to reach so much into the cells. And on that point of time, the patient is unconscious. Of course, the monitorings are going on, but because of the food, we won't be able to say if the balance is taking place in the blood and the cells. Now we are starting the refeeding syndrome. Okay, refeeding, we are starting with the refeeding. Maybe because of some issues, lots of amount of feed for one point of time we have given. Now, what is it doing? Glucose levels are increasing in the blood. Insulin secretion is taking place. Okay. So when the insulin secretion is taking place, what is the function of the insulin? We understand we do have pancreas, and from the beta cells, insulin secretion takes place. Why insulin secretion takes place? In normal condition, what happens? Whenever we are taking food, glucose levels goes up in the blood, and our body engage into that, and it checks, okay, glucose levels are increasing, let's secrete the insulin so that it can transfer the blood in the glucose to the cells. Okay, in case of refeeding, we are giving like food or any sort of solution at a point of time. As a result, insulin secretion is increasing. Insulin का normal funda to make the glucose into the cells, but with that it is taking the electrolytes as well. Okay, as a result, the deficiency is taking place in the blood. That's why, as one of you have mentioned, many of the hyper conditions takes place. Okay, so this condition is known as refeeding syndrome. Syndrome. This is refeeding. We are starting the feeding again. Syndrome, when we are getting the lab report and everything is coming low, we can call that condition as a syndrome. Okay, this can be detrimental also if one some of like any if anyone in one of them in the hospitals, the critical care patient, they are not checking the levels. Okay, because sodium, potassium, phosphate, magnesium, all are very important. Not only important for the muscles, even for the heartbeat. If this levels goes down, there will be arrhythmia, that is unusual heartbeat. It can be detrimental if it is not corrected at proper time. So, refeeding syndrome is a potential life-threatening metabolic condition. It's a serious medical condition that affect the body metabolism, energy, and chemical process. It occurs when the body cannot properly adjust to the suddenly supply of nutrition after a certain period of starvation. Okay, it mainly happens when the body is into starvation mode, and suddenly we are giving them like supply of nutrients. Okay, supply of nutrients to them, and they are not able to getting accomstant. So being a like, if any of you are a nutritionist, being a community nutritionist, when you go to the community, like you'll be checking on the children, SAM children, that is severely acute malnourished children, or PEM children, protein energy malnutrition. So we will be able to understand whenever we are going to the conditions, like they will be having thin hair, they will be very bones and skin to skin. Basic symptoms will be able to understand. To them also, like in the bookish knowledge also, we learn from there also. He, whenever we are including food to them, like severely acute malnourished or protein energy malnutrition, it should be a gradual way. We shouldn't be giving the food suddenly a huge like balanced diet suddenly to them. Same reason. because their body is accustomed only into the survival mode. If you're starting gradually, that's good, but not too many nutrients at a point of time, because it will be leading to consequences. Basically, what happens in the children, they are not critical patient, but then also there will be some of the side effects. Some of them get nauseated, some of them get like they're not able to tolerate food. Like watery stools just takes place as well. Like when I went to the community, these are the main points. Even we were going for the studies, suddenly if you're including too many nutrients to them, some of them are also suffered from watery stools, so they're not able to adjust with that. Same thing with the refeeding syndrome, but the condition is different. Over here we are talking about the critical condition patient. Okay, if not treated quickly, it may lead to heart problem, respiratory failure, or even death. Absolutely. So occurs when nutrition is reintroduced after prolonged starvation or severe malnutrition. During long period without the adequate food, the body adapts by slowing metabolism and using the stored fat and protein for energy. Blood levels of important minerals such as phosphate, potassium, and magnesium get depleted. Okay. Anyway, the patient will be unconscious and it is getting depleted. Whatever is there, slowly, slowly it is getting depleted. When feeding suddenly restarted, the body will be releasing insulin. Okay. Now, insulin will be production will be there. Insulin का main functions है to make the glucose, to take the glucose to the cells. Whatever the minimum amount of minerals are present on the blood on that point of time, it will be straight away going to the cells. So void will be creating in the blood, and which is very very detrimental if it is not corrected, if it is not checked at proper time. Common in critical ill patient receiving enteral or parenteral nutrition. Enteral, as I've discussed, basically the food which goes via pipe, but still we are using the GI. Okay. Parenteral is another serious condition. It is going, the foods are going via vein, where we are not using the GI as well. Okay. Critical ill patients, such as those in ICU, are often malnourished or have very little food intake because of the condition. It can occur because of multiple reasons. Okay. When nutrition, suppose the patients who are into ventilator, understand those conditions. Might be the parenteral nutritions are there, but proper food intake is not happening to them, right? Suppose a patient who have undergone any surgery in the GI, okay, some of them might be having any tumors or cancer in the GI. Maybe some of them have gone a critical surgery, okay. In that cases, of course, many days the person is not getting fed, proper feeding is not taking place. Maybe the parental nutrition, ventilator support, those things will be there only. Okay. When nutrition support is started through enteral nutrition, feeding through into the stomach and parental nutrition, the sudden nutrient supply may trigger the refeeding syndrome, especially if the feeding is started too quickly. Okay, so that is very important. If we are starting too quickly, that can cause refeeding syndrome to them. Okay, so carefully want you to monitor electrolyte balance every day. Actually, one of you have mentioned in ICU every day, like whenever, if any of you are a dietitian or have done the internship, if you go to the ICU patient, in front of ICU bed, there will be a long chart in front of them. Date will be mentioned, and over there, more or less every day, they will be checking the important parameters: sodium, potassium, magnesium, as well as if they have the diabetes, if they have any sort of infection, multi-organ failure, any like CRP, everything will be every day they are checking on that, because those parameters are very very critical in case of them. Everyone is getting me? Any questions till now?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the rest of the them? Balchandra, Brishti, Chetna. Any questions? Debolina, Madhurima, Srijita, Shreya. I hope everybody
ম্যাম নর্মালি
thumbs
তো
up.
আমরা তাহলে প্রাথমিক লেভেলে আমরা যেমন কি লিকুইড দিয়ে স্টার্ট করি, যখন আমরা রিপিটিং করছি আর কি, রিপিটিং স্টার্ট করছি, এবং তারপরে আস্তে আস্তে ম্যাশ অথবা সেমি সলিড অথবা সলিড, তো এভাবে, এবং ভলিউমও কম দিয়ে আর কি, এবং সেটাই করা উচিত নিশ্চয়ই।
অ্যাবসলিউটলি সেটাই করা উচিত। ওকে, সেটাই করা উচিত, সেটাই উচিত। ঠিক আছে, আদারওয়াইজ এই ইস্যুগুলো হতে পারে। ওকে, ওকে। Characterized mainly by electrolyte and fluid shift, the main feature of the refeeding syndrome is rapid changes in the electrolyte and body fluids. Important electrolyte changes include hypophosphatemia, very low phosphate level. Whenever we are talking hypo, that is the low level, hyper, that is the high level. Hypokalemia, that is the low potassium. Hypomagnesemia, that is the low magnesium. Okay, these are the very important parameters in the electrolyte. Is checked every day in case of ICU patient. Those who are not into conscious state, those who are not taking food from the mouth, those are already giving parenteral or enteral nutrition. This shift can cause muscle weakness, heart rhythm abnormalities, it can be arrhythmia, breathing problems, swelling due to the fluid retention. Okay. Muscle weakness, we understand sodium, potassium, magnesium plays an important role in the muscle contraction. Heart, why heart? Sodium, potassium plays an important role in controlling your heartbeat as well. Okay. Breathing problem, it can affect the lung muscles, so it can lead to the breathing problem, and swelling due to the fluid retention. We are giving fluid also, right? We are giving suddenly huge amount of fluid which kidney is not able to excrete out. So fluid retention, it can be one of the another issue as well. So this is the refeeding syndrome in case of critical care patient. Like refeeding syndrome is a potentially life-threatening metabolic condition. Actually, it is a life-threatening problem. With the electrolyte, maybe the names are very, very short or very easy, but these have very importance to understand our metabolism. It just have important role in case of a muscle also, in case of a heartbeat also. If these parameters are not like maintained, of course it can lead to life threatening metabolic complications. Occurs when nutrition is reintroduced, that is the refeeding, refeeding after prolonged starvation or severe malnutrition. That's true, because our body is quite intelligent, we need to understand that. Okay, body knows, okay, food intake is quite less, and maybe enteral parenteral nutrition is going on, the calorie is also going very less, the patient is not conscious, the body are highly intelligent body, they know what to do on that point of time. Though they know the insulin secretion will be less, they know the movements are less, say, so they are totally accustomed in that condition. Okay, they are totally accustomed in that condition. This consequences only happens when we are starting the feed suddenly. We are starting the food suddenly. Common in critical ill patient receiving enteral or parenteral nutrition. That's the thing, because this mainly happens not to the people who can have food from the mouth. If that also we are doing, as like one of you have mentioned quite nicely, even we are when like from parental enteral food or soft food, that is also very gradual. We never give them all the foods at one point of time. We check, okay, अगर soft food भी हो चुका है, what is the status of the patient, whether they are able to chew properly, whether they are able to digest properly, everything need to be gradual to them. Characterized mainly by electrolyte and fluid shift, that is the main thing. Fluid shift हो रहा है, so very less amount of electrolytes are present in the blood. As a result, these hypoconditions are taking place. And also the fluid shift, sometimes what happens, the fluids are not able, the kidney is not, maybe on that point of time all the organs are not functioning properly, right? They're not able to excrete that amount of water, and we have given too much food or too much feeding, too much refeeding actually on that point of time, the kidney is not able to excrete out the fluid accumulation. It can be another consequences. Fluid accumulation, if it is not treated again, it can lead to other consequences. First, a basic, we'll be able to see your leg is swelling, but slowly it can affect your lungs, even the brain. Like when I was working, I seen a kidney patient. This is not related to that, just I want to share. She was a kidney patient and not undergoing dialysis, but she was at the stage 3 or 4, very critical condition, and swelling was there. Okay, but so much increased at the later stage. Slowly she need to go dialysis. We understood that. First of all, basic swelling to pehle tha, like on legs, that is fine, that can be still manageable, but slowly the water accumulation has been taking place in the lungs. If she is just moving 10 steps, she is not able to breathe properly. Breathlessness was happening, and it was happening because of the water accumulation. Water accumulation has taken place in the face. The face has swelled, the tongue has swelled so much to her, she's not able to take the tongue back into the mouth. Okay, it was just hanging, just he was the tongue was protruding from the mouth. So water accumulation can be that much serious. Again, like I have seen that condition. I have not went for evaluation with that patient. When I was doing other patient counseling as well, when I was with the doctor, it can lead to confusion or dizziness also. Okay, because if the water accumulation takes place, it reaches to the brain. It can lead to confusion, dizziness. That can be there as well. So this can be serious.
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এক্ষেত্রে তো ম্যাম ওই সেরিব্রাল ইডিমা অথবা কার্ডিয়াক
Yes.
ট্যাম্পোনেট অথবা প্লুরাল এফিউশন এগুলো দেখা দিতে
Cerebral
আসে।
edema, right? That is the term, cerebral edema. So that can lead to that. Okay. So what are the risk factors? We have already discussed. So we'll be discussing again once more. Prolonged fasting or starvation. That is the reason. Okay. That is one of the important reason for the refeeding syndrome. Maybe the patient is not able to take, or like as I was talking, the community nutrition, whenever we are checking on the protein energy malnutrition children, severely acute malnutrition, SAM children, which we see, never start food. They are able to take the food via mouth. Okay, they are into that condition, but never start the food like as a balanced diet from the first day. It will be severely disbalancing their health. First of all, the GI disturbance. I have seen from my own experience. GI disturbance is quite common. Few of them get nauseated. Few of them will be starting the watery stools. It's important and essential. One should be starting very gradually. Severe malnutrition or weight loss. That is also another reason people are trying, like too many fats diets are there everywhere. Okay, that can be the reason for also of that, because body suddenly there is a sudden weight loss that has been taking place, sudden depletion of the insulin storage has been taking place, sudden depletion of the electrolyte imbalance has been taking place. That can be the reason for that. Chronic alcoholism, as we understand, in why chronic alcoholism, sometimes what happens when, especially I'm talking about the chronic one, not the acute one who are not regular, I'm saying the regular one. When someone is consuming alcohol for prolonged period of time, sometimes what happens, they skip the food. Okay, they skip the food because their tummy gets full, they're taking alcohol only. Okay, this also affects the homeostasis in the body. Okay, when the insulin secretion will take place, how the digestion will be taking place. Okay, of course there are other consequences of the chronic alcohol, there will be fatty liver and everything, but initially what is happening, we are replacing the food with the alcohol. Okay.
And ma'am, severe dehydration is happening
Absolutely,
on chronic.
absolutely. Water is also important. Severe dehydration is also responsible for electrolyte imbalance in the body. Okay, but in case of normal human being, dehydration we can still identify, like our throats are getting dried and everything. That should not be prolonged. That can only happen prolonged if someone is in the catastrophic state. Maybe the water is not available, or some catastrophe has happened. The person is not able to take the water. Anorexia nervosa, same thing. The person is not taking food and sudden weight loss has been taking place. This can be the reason. Cancer, sepsis, post surgery patient, which we are discussing actually today. Like in this case, your patient has, like, there's a major operation has been done, or any sort of infection has been there in the patient, which has led to multi organ failure. The patient is not into conscious state, went into the ventilator. Post surgery patient, maybe the doctor is watching, maybe had some complication has come up. The post surgery patients, okay, patients in intensive care unit, because maybe this type of patient will be going to the ICU, because ICU we understand is not like a minor cuts and wounds we are going over there. No, right? We are going over there because certain critical condition has been taking place, maybe after operation also, maybe because of some trauma, because of the serious condition, because of the ventilation.
CBA and stroke, maybe CBA and
Absolutely,
stroke.
Shishi. Those are can be also one of the reasons for that. So key electrolyte changes, as we are discussing, like we have started over there. Hypophosphatemia. Okay, the main hallmark feature which we see, low amount of phosphorus. Okay, just give me 1 second, please. So hallmark feature, that is hypophosphatemia, means low phosphate levels in the blood. Okay, it is the most common characteristic feature we'll be able to see if it's happening in the refeeding syndrome. When feedings restart, insulin increases, causing the phosphate to move from the blood into the cells. Phosphate, why it is happening? Phosphate is needed for the energy production, ATP. Whatever we are doing, it needs ATP in the body. I'm moving my hand, I'm talking to you. You guys are listening. Maybe some of you are taking the notes. Maybe you guys are talking to me, having an interaction. Everything needs ATP. And phosphate is essential over there. Okay, very, very essential over there. Plus, what are the other importance? Muscle. Like, for example, like one of you mentioned about the dehydration. Okay, so when dehydration is also taking place, it also affects the exchange of ions from the blood to the cell. Okay, so muscle function, what happens whenever there is a dehydration, we might feel sometimes muscle cramp, especially in the night time. Okay, so less amount of phosphate, one of the reason. There can be other reason also. It can be because of some neurological disorder. It can be because of the dehydration. Why dehydration is taking place? Because less amount of exchange of electrolyte is taking place as well. Okay, it might be because of the zinc deficiency, but low amount of phosphate is also one of the reason for the muscle dysfunctionability, as well as oxygen delivery. Severe deficiency can lead to muscle weakness, respiratory failure, heart dysfunction. Why these things are taking place? Because lung muscle, heart muscles, all are connected. What is the main function of the phosphate? Of course, for the muscle function. Those are all bounded with the muscles. If those heart muscle or lung muscles are not working, of course, it will be responsible for the arrhythmia as well as the respiratory failure as well. Hypokalemia, another very common thing which we can see, that is a low potassium levels in the blood. Okay. During refeeding, potassium say shift from the bloodstream to the cells due to insulin action. What is the function of the potassium? Its main function is a nerve transmission and muscle contraction. What is the nerve transmission? We understand we do have neurons, we do have nerve, right? What is the function of the neurons? To pass on the information from brain to other parts via nerves. Okay, and who does these things in the nerves are the neurons. Okay, so that is the main function, nerve transmission, as well as again muscle contraction, muscle functionability. So what does low amount of potassium can
Getting
lead
there
to?
with right?
Yes, Vijay, you want to say something? Low potassium.
Bradyarrhythmia. Bradyarrhythmia.
Absolutely, absolutely. Muscle, whenever we are talking about any electrolyte which is responsible for the muscles, if you are not taking place, it will be leading to dysregulation of the muscles, which will be leading to bradycardia, arrhythmia, atrial fibrillation, another important thing which happens. Okay, so this will be responsible for that. Hypomagnesemia, what is that? A low amount of magnesium levels. Okay, what does magnesium do? Enzyme activity, nerve function, muscle contraction. So, these three, whatever we are discussing, the main thing is the muscle functionability. Okay, you might have noticed. Main function of these three is a muscle. With that, they of course they have other important functions as well. But muscle is an important function for
Sleep
them.
and mood. Sleep and mood disorder also.
Yes, sleep and mood also, that can be also responsible. When refeeding begins, magnesium moves into the cells, lowering the blood levels. So again, if I don't have magnesium properly, I don't have potassium properly, I don't have like maybe another that is not too much important. Even sodium sometimes is interlinked. If we don't have phosphate also, it will be leading to anything will be relating to the muscles, and muscles are present everywhere. And major, what are the major muscles? Heart muscle, which is the heartbeat is taking place because of that. Okay, then fatigue as well as muscle weakness will be taking place. Okay. uh, then thiamine deficiency. Thiamine, we know, water soluble vitamin B1. Okay, it's required for the carbohydrate metabolism, energy production. So what is the main characteristic feature of the water soluble vitamin? It never gets stored in the body. Okay, it excrete out. So in that condition, the starvation period, so what will happen? Slowly depletion will be taking place because water soluble vitamins are not stored. That's why you might have heard Never ever the water soluble hypervitaminosis will be taking place in the body. Fat soluble water like hypervitaminosis can be taking place, ADEK, but never ever the water soluble PC, because they are never stored in the body. When carbohydrates are suddenly reintroduced and become and the body needs more thiamine, which may lead to deficiency. Okay, so what is happening, slowly the depletion is taking place, and suddenly we are starting with the carbohydrate feed, we are not giving thiamine. Okay, maybe the whenever the feed starts, we are not concentrating on the vitamins. Suddenly we are starting many amount of carbohydrate at one point of time. Okay, but we don't have thiamine. Thiamine, what is the function of the thiamine? Of course, for the carbohydrate metabolism, which will be giving us glucose and energy production. So, thiamine deficiency becomes another very common deficiency in case of refeeding syndrome. So, what happens because of that? Neurological problems, confusion, even the encephalopathy also that can happen in the body. Fluid and sodium retention. Refeeding increases the insulin secretion, which promote the sodium and water retention in the kidney because they are not able to excrete out. The patient is a critical condition. Okay, maybe suppose if I'm talking about the multi-organ failure patient, the patient came with a sepsis. Okay, and suddenly the because of the sepsis, the patient went into the septic shock and they are having multi-organ failure. Now they are recovering. Okay, whatever happened, now they are recovering, and suddenly I started with everything at one point of time, because if I'm giving feed, that will be containing water. Because of septic shock, every part of the organs get affected. Kidney also gets affected. So on that point of time, the kidney might not be able to function properly to excrete out. So it retaining. So it is retaining in the body. So this will be causing the fluid accumulation as well. Just check on the picture. This is the normal water जो है, and this is the fluid retention. Okay, if the fluid retention is there, sodium retention will be also, because it's not able to excrete out in the body. Okay, via kidney. First आप देखोगे fluid retention, whenever it's happening, the edema will be taking place, and with that, of course, whenever edema will be taking place, fluid retention is taking place with the sodium water. Too much water also exert pressure in the blood vessel, so blood pressure will also increase. Okay, and too much sodium also, it affects the heartbeat, so that is also very dangerous. So, clinical manifestation, what can be that? Cardiac arrhythmia, muscle weakness, respiratory failure, respiratory edema, and heart failure in case of CU patient. So, all this electrolyte, whatever we have discussed, connected with the muscles. It controls our heartbeat, it controls our lung muscles, everything. Okay, because muscles are not working properly, the main functioning of the organs also will not be there properly. Okay. So, pathophysiology of the refeeding syndrome: starvation, low insulin, electrolyte depletion. So, refeeding we are taking because of the high carbohydrate intake, insulin surge, but with the surge, glucose is going as well as electrolyte. As a result, there is a void is creating taking place in the blood, which is leading to complication like arrhythmia, unusual heartbeat, weakness. Even if it's not corrected at proper time, it will lead to respiratory failure. So, prevention and management, how we can do that? Identify the high risk patient before starting the nutrition. That's very important, right? If you're starting in a nutrition, we need to understand what is the condition of the other parameters. We need to check the kidney also, kidney functionability, whether it's properly functioning. We need to check on the EGFR rate. We need to check on the other functionability. Of course, check on the condition. What is the history of the patient? Severe malnutrition. For how long the patient has not taken the food. So we need to take all the parameter to understand what type of nutrition one should be starting. Start with a very slow feeding. It can be 10 to 20 kilocalorie. If someone is very like to severe malnutrition, or the sepsis patient, or the multi-organ failure patient, or they went into like some like any major surgery, okay, maybe cancer tumor, start with a very slow one. So after starting with a very low amount and slow one, also check on the parameters. Give the feed, check on the parameters. Give what is the condition in the blood is happening. Okay, this is actually the holy grail of refeeding. One should be starting very slow and with very less calorie. Check on the condition after that, whether the patient is able to take it or not. Check on the blood parameters. Then only slowly we can increase on that. Monitor the electrolytes daily, as Shishir has mentioned. Every day ICU patient will be checking the electrolyte. Not only electrolyte, they will be having the other parameters. If because like there be like infection, they will be checking the HbA1c. But with that, if you ever go to the ICU, you'll be able to see a chart. Everything every day they are measuring. In case of critical care patients, something they are doing twice also. I've seen in the morning and the night. Okay. Provide thiamine supplementation. So it's important if you're starting the feed, carbohydrate is there to produce the glucose. Where is the thiamine, right? So one can start with the thiamine supplementation. So whenever we are starting the feeding, thiamine will be helping in the carbohydrate metabolism for the glucose production. Gradually increase the calorie intake. That's the holy grail. Start with a very small and slowly. Check on the metabolic rate. Check on the parameters. Check on the condition of the patient. Check on the condition of the other organs. And slowly, then we'll be increasing the calorie. Once we understand the patient is able to take, able to adjust, then only we'll be increasing it gradually. So everyone understood about the refeeding syndrome?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay, very good. Rest of you, please give me thumbs up. Everyone understood, right? Oh, okay, thank you so much. Okay. Now we'll be starting with the gastric residual volume. Okay. We discussed in the first only what is gastric residual volume. That is the amount of fluid remaining in the stomach during enteral feeding. Okay. So why it is important? Why we are checking on the amount of fluid present in the stomach? Okay. That will be understanding furthermore. So gastric basically GRV, which we say, basically the amount of volume which are present, it indicates how well the stomach is digesting. Suppose I have given feed to the patient, and after checking on that, I can still check on key the feed is still there in the stomach. So we understand stomach is not able to
আগের
digest.
খাবারটা হজম হয়েছে কিনা সেটা আমরা দেখে নেবো সবসময় এভরি ফিটিং।
Yeah. So whether the person is able to digest it or not. If the food is still there, that means what? The person is not able to take the food. Maybe we need to change the solution. Maybe we need to change the composition. Maybe in critical condition, one needs to start with the parenteral. Okay, of course, one need to discuss with the doctor and the nutritionist over there. So we need to go on. We need to check on those conditions. Measure through aspiration using a feeding tube. So of course there's a process to measure like how much fluid is still present. There's a process to check on that, and it is measured by aspirating stomach contents through a feeding tube. A syringe is attached to the feeding tube and the stomach contents are gently withdrawn. The withdrawal fluid is measured in millimeters to determine the gastric residual volume. This procedure is usually performed at regular intervals during the enteral feeding. So it is also used to assess the dietary gastric emptying and feeding tolerance. So whenever we are measuring the GRV, we need to understand if the patient is the gastric emptying is not taking place. So we need to understand what other possibilities, what other changes we need to do on that. If the GRV is high, it may indicate the delayed gastric emptying that the patient is not able to tolerate. There might be some changes in the feed we need to do, or maybe with the consult with the doctor and the nutritionist. If the condition is getting critical, one need to start with the parenteral feeding as well. Important in critical ill patient receiving the enteral nutrition, GRV monitoring is especially important in case of critical inpatient, in case of especially because today we are discussing the critical care patient, the patient who are in the ICU. So we need to understand the condition will be critical, and as we are studying in the refeeding also, every day we need to monitor, we need to check everything. Okay, whenever like some of the nutrition those who have worked in the hospital, whenever we are checking on the ICU patient, in front of the patient there will be a long chart. So every day we need to check on that, keep what are the parameters in case of electrolyte, and other parameters will be there also in case of infection. There will be CRP as well as some of them also include the HbA1c. So those parameters need to be checked as well as in case of critical ill patients. High GRV can increase the risk of regurgitation and aspiration pneumonia. These are the one of the complications which can happen. So of course we need to check the fluid as we have mentioned in the previous slides how to check on that. We need to do that to prevent these consequences. Monitoring GRV helps to ensure safe and effective nutrition and support. So, why GRV is measured? To evaluate the tolerance to enteral feeding. the patient is in a critical condition. Now we have changed the feed. Maybe the patient is improving. The nutritionist and doctor team, they have consulted together and they have started, okay, we can start with enteral nutrition. So we are evaluating, the patient was into starvation for prolonged period of time. Maybe the patient had any multi-organ failure. Okay, whenever the sepsis patient is going to the hospital, it can be some of the patient can turn into the multi-organ failure, and it can lead to also the ventilations. Maybe the patient is now recovering, so the doctor and the team of nutrition, they have started with the feeding. So we are understanding whether the GI systems are properly working or not. Okay. So for that reason, one need to understand delayed, detect the delayed gastric emptying. If the delaying is happening, of course, maybe the we need to change the feed. Maybe we need to change the pattern of the feeding. Maybe we need to substitute the parental nutrition. Prevent aspiration and pneumonia. These are another detrimental thing which can happen if you are not checking on the condition every day, and guide the adjustment in the feeding rate. Maybe we can start with another very low dose, very slow feeding, to also improve the condition of the patient. Measurement of the gastric residual volume, enteral feeding tube placed in the stomach, syringe aspiration via feeding tube. So there will be a syringe. Whenever we are putting enteral feeding, of course, there will be a tube. Syringe aspiration via feeding tube, they will be measuring with that. Then they will be measuring the volume, whatever the contents are there in the stomach. And after that, they will be looking into it, what are the changes can be done. And if you're not checking on the condition ki too much fluids are present, this can lead to the other consequences as well. Clinical significance of GRV. High GRV may indicate the impaired gastric motility associated with the increased risk of aspiration, even the pneumonia, which we have already discussed in the previous slide. Helps clinicals to decide whether to continue or pause the feeding. Measuring the GRV helps the doctors and nurses evaluate the patient's tolerance to enteral feeding. If GRV is within acceptable limit, it can, of course, one can continue safely. If GRV is very, very high, the clinicals may slow down the or pause or adjust the feeding rate. This ensures the nutrition is delivered safely without any causing any complications. Recent guidelines suggest that stop feeding using unless GRV is very high. Okay, one should be stopping the feeding. That's very, very important. Earlier practice was to stop feeding when GRV was moderate high. Now the recommendations are changing. Recent clinical guidelines recommended continuing feeding unless GRV is extremely high. This helps avoid unnecessary interruption of the nutrition in case of critical care patient. Continuous feeding improves nutrition status and recovery. So these are the levels which has been suggested by WHO as well. Like what are the levels one need to include? Like if it is less than 200 ml, it is generally acceptable. If it is more than 500, it is actually the tolerance intolerance levels are happening because of that. So conclusion, what we can understand, refeeding syndrome is a serious complication that must be prevented in case of malnourished patients. Refeeding syndrome is a dangerous metabolic condition that can occur when nutrition is restarted in case of severely malnourished or starved patient. Because as we have discussed, our body is accustomed with the low insulin level. Suddenly we are starting feeding in a huge amount. Insulin secretion is increasing. Insulin will be doing their action. It will be taking the glucose into the cells, but it will be taking the electrolyte as well to the cells. As a result, there will be high chances of void creation in the blood, which we have discussed today. That is, there will be a electrolyte imbalance. Low amount of phosphate, magnesium, sodium, potassium will be taking place. Careful monitoring of electrolyte and gradual nutrition support is essential, because during refeeding, electrolytes such as phosphate, potassium, and magnesium must be monitored regularly. Nutrition support should be started slowly. Okay, once it will be starting slowly. We understand the condition of the patient. Slowly, we can increase the like food feed or the time on the concentration. Slowly, we can gradually increase that. Okay, this approach helps the body adapt to safely renewed supply of nutrition and prevents the metabolic disturbances. Gastric residual volume measurement helps evaluate the enteral feeding tolerance. GRV, which we say gastric residual volume monitoring, determine whether the person is able to digest properly, whether it's been tolerated or not. Okay, it's very, very important. If it is not tolerated, there will be high chances of regurgitation. as well as there will be chances of pneumonia because there will be accumulation of the fluid as well. Okay. Proper monitoring the ICU improve the patient's safety and nutrition outcomes. Because today we are discussing mainly with the critical ill patient. Okay, those who will be critically ill, there might be many patients, maybe because of the post surgery, because of the sepsis, because of the like any tumor surgery, or maybe because of any other reason. Okay, those critical ill patient where everyday monitoring has been done, so we need to understand the refeeding syndrome also by checking on the monitoring. So what we have understood, we should be starting at a very slow pace and very low calorie. Okay. Then check on the parameters again, whether any void creation is happening, whether any electrolyte imbalance, whether any hypophosphatemia, hypomagnesemia, or whether any hypokalemia is taking place. Okay, then slowly we can increase. Similarly, check on the gastric residual volume as well. Why? To understand whether they are able to take the feed, whether they are able to tolerate the feed or not, because if it is not taken care at proper time, it will be leading to other conditions as well. Okay, so this is about this module. Any questions or queries you have, students? Ankita, Balchandra, Vrishti?
No, ma'am. It's really
Thank you, ma'am.
absolutely great
It's
learning
a very
children
fine
from
class.
you. So,
So Ishani ma'am is there, and she will be discussing some of the point. And Ishani ma'am will be discussing about the FST and other things. Ishani ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Shudrita, for this wonderful session, wonderful class. I'm also being there for last 10 to 15 minutes. It's a wonderful session, really.
Thank you.
And I hope the students have enjoyed a lot about this session. So I just want to ask I just want to ask the students that how you have liked this 3 day session about the workshop on critical care. I just want some feedback. Ankita, Shreya, Madhurima, Rishti, Vijay.
Nice, ma'am.
Okay, so you have learned something new?
wow, ma'am. It's absolutely nice.
You have learned something new?
Yes, ma'am. Lots of things we learn, and mainly the refeeding things, ma'am. Today is emphasize on it, and it's absolutely a wonderful thing. I learned lots of things from the slides and from the articles what ma'am sharing, and it's absolutely really great learning thing, ma'am. Today slides.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would request Shudrita to please off the slide sharing so that I can. Yes. Okay. So just I will take your 5 minutes because a lot of you are associated with FSTN, but some of you are not associated with FSTN or you are not aware about what is going on now. So for that reason, just I want to share some of the FSTN courses and what is going on and what are the other things we are doing here. For that, I just present a very small PPT, and there is also small award ceremony. We have 1 awardees for that. So I would request all of you to stay for only 2 to 3 minutes more. I hope I will not take too much time. So again, already you are in our FSTN family. So first of all, welcome you all to the FSTN Exploration Foundation, and these are our FSTN board members. All these workshops and all over which are being arranged, and various other programs, webinars, seminars, what are being arranging, all are the brainchild of this eminent people, those who are the board members of FSTN. Our FSTN Exploration Foundation is an ISO certified and MSME approved organization, also a NITI Aayog certified organization. And we have a collaboration with Medhavi Foundation, as well as we have the diploma courses with the academic collaboration of Skill India. We are a Skill India certified organization. FST and Exploration Foundation is a Skill India certified organization. Along with that, we have academic collaboration with MGM University, Aurangabad, as well as we have academic collaboration with Indian Institute of Food Science and Technology, Maharashtra, IIFST Maharashtra, through which our under various courses are being going on. And this is our FSTN Academy. Already we have passed 1 year to physically established our FSTN Academy. Now it's been more than 1 year this academy is going on. So we have some specialization courses by FSTN Academy or FSTN Exploration Foundation. So we have the new session will start from Certified Diabetes Educator course. The admission is going on, and also Advanced Diet Plan Making program. We have a 30-day short-term course on space nutrition, as well as certificate course in GI nutrition. Our very hot cake course, we have more than 8 batches already done of this certification in renal diet nutrition. Certificate course on critical care nutrition. Thus, we have basically designed to make at a workshop on a 3-day course, crash course on critical care nutrition, so that we are able to give you some explicit knowledge in a very short period of time. We have also a very hot cake course of a certification course in pediatric nutrition and certification course in gynecology nutrition. And also the second batch is going on for certification course in oncology nutrition. The third batch is going to start from the month of April. And also we have the advanced diet plan making program. This is a recorded session class. These classes admissions are going on. And also we have the diploma. Every month we have batch of more than 30 to 40 students in diploma in nutrition and dietetics, and we have now today more than 12 batches in diploma in nutrition and dietetics. So those who are interested to know about basic food and nutrition and basic about therapeutic diet and want to just revise their food and nutrition knowledge, for them diploma in nutrition and dietetics is the best option that you can choose for yourself. And also we have the skill development diploma in food processing and technology, as well as in sports nutrition. The admissions are open always, every time in the year. And we have also a 3-month internship program on the patient counseling. We have done this, 3 batches have already done. So another 3-month internship program is going to start from the month of May as well. So the admission is going on. And also along with that, we go through the industry visit as well. So a lot of industry visits we have done in Coca-Cola, as well as the Mukhorochok food industry, Parle food industry, and also we have done a recent industrial visit to the Bangla dairy food industry, Bangla dairy industry basically. And also we have conducted a lot of FOSTAC training. The FSTN is having a collaboration with Bharat Chamber of Commerce for the FOSTAC training, food safety supervisor training. This is the physical most training only happen to those who are in Kolkata. We have already trained with the FOSTAC officer, Dr. Deboshite, more than 200 students with us with FSTN. We have trained the food safety supervisor. So also you can take our lifetime membership to enjoy all these things. And also I hope you are all in our FSTN WhatsApp group. If not, then I will share the FSTN main WhatsApp group link where you can join and you can get all those opportunities and you can aware of those opportunities. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much everyone for being with us, for being with FSTN. And I would just request everyone to be here, because we have 1 award ceremony. So every time we go for the award every time. So as well as the Young Researcher Award and the Best Faculty Award, we have given a lot of awards, and there one is remaining. So for her, basically we are conducting this award show now. So again, welcome you all to FSTN, and welcome you all to this award ceremony by FSTN Exploration Foundation. I hope those who have not got the award from FSTN till now, they will enroll themselves for the next awardees, and if they CV is being selected by our jury members. Basically, the dietitian jury is being selected by dietitian Shreyoshi Bhomik Sinha. She is the one who choose who will be the young dietitian and young nutritionist. And for the faculty, we have Dr. Shweta Parida ma'am, and for the researcher, we have Dr. Swati Nakhale ma'am. So they are our jury members for selecting the CV for those who getting the awards. So a round of applause for our new awardee from FST and Exploration Foundation 2026. Congratulations, Ankita Bhattacharya, for getting the Young Nutritionist Award 2026. And we are really overwhelmed and congratulate her for her success in the coming future, in the coming life, and so that she may do some good work so that our society may become healthy and well. So I would request Ankita to say a few words if it is possible.
Yes, ma'am. Is absolutely. I have no words. I'm really amazed to seeing me in the screen of FSTN. Is really a dream. And Shreyoshi ma'am, you showbiz us all the members. I have no, and they are selecting me, and it's really a biggest thing for me. And I always keep always want everyone blessings for my life throughout my life and journey, because I'm kid in front of everyone, because everyone is very much educated, everyone is very much experienced. I am nothing in front of them, but still they are selecting me. And I am really gratitude to God and all the jury members, and absolutely you also. You are always encouraging me. Whatever I am doing, you encouraging me. You can. So absolutely, I really it's really a gratitude to FSTN and you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ankita. Congratulations again to you, and I hope you will do a lot of good work in your coming future. So,
Yeah, absolutely,
congratulations
ma'am.
again, and thank you so much all for being with FSTN. So, I would request those who are not in our official WhatsApp group, for them that I would send the link to join the official WhatsApp group so that you may join. And if you have any queries, any question related to any course, you may ask any one of us, and you may directly message us so that we can answer your queries. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you so much, Shudrita ma'am, for taking this session so efficiently. And thank you so much all for attending this 3 days workshop on advanced critical care nutrition. Thank you so much. Good night, and hope to see you all in coming future.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, student. Take care. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you.